Hello, dear friends, dear ones. I'd like to speak about how we can keep our hearts steady and wise in this time of coronavirus. And collectively, we're going through this unprecedented time of upheaval for our health and those we care about, and economic upheaval. It's really a profound time of life and death and uncertainty. So we want to understand how to keep ourselves steady within ourselves and for those around us. Most of you are familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh's image of the one person on the crowded refugee boats who remained calm and steady and showed the way for everyone else to survive. We all, in some way, can be that person. I already know a number of friends who have the virus. Some are sick at home, moderately sick and going through the difficulties. Some have contacted me because they're already in the hospital. And when I went to visit my daughter and her husband and young grandson some days ago, the last time I'll see them for a while, he's a firefighter and first responder in Oakland. And I asked, how are they protecting themselves? Because 80% of their calls are medical calls. And he said, like health professionals across the country, we don't have masks. We don't have that kind of protection. And I said, well, will you get tested? He said, they don't want to test us because they don't want to lose their first responders and firefighters. So my heart sank. And I realized how many of us are in this in different ways, and that there's a whole group of people who are supporting us out there, and who we want to appreciate with our own prayers and gratitude and care. So it's natural for us at this time to feel the emotions, sadness and grief, or anger or confusion or helplessness. And they're not just personal. They're part of our common humanity. They are called the tears of the way, because in times like this, we're touched and entwined with so many who are vulnerable as we are. And to begin with our mindful, loving awareness, we can begin to name these experiences, sadness, fear, confusion, to feel them in our body and heart and mind. And as we acknowledge them with a loving awareness, we can hold them with tenderness and compassion. Thank you for trying to protect me, you can say inwardly. I'm okay for now. And more as you practice in this way, you begin to trust mindfulness as a refuge. You become the loving witness, the loving awareness of the joys and the sorrows, of the fears and the emotions, of the thoughts. It's as if you can step back and, as the loving witness, say, yes, this is what it's like to go through difficulty, and we know how to do this. We've been training for this in our meditations and in our hearts for a long time. And we human beings know how to do this from centuries and eons of going through difficulty together. You already have mindfulness practices to help you in a regular way. Here are 2 additional practices that may serve you. So as you listen, whatever way is safe for you, let your eyes close for the first of these practices, and take a deep breath or 2 to release any obvious tension, and let yourself settle in your body. And as you do, as you quiet your mind and listen more deeply, in a moment, let an image arise spontaneously, but not quite yet, of the most steady and loving and courageous being that you can imagine. It could be a Buddha or Mother Mary. It could be Clara Barton, or one of the indigenous grandmothers, or Mahatma Gandhi, or someone you've known. And let this image arise of the personification of steadiness and love and courage amidst it all. And as you remember them, think of them, picture them any way you can. Feel their wisdom and steadiness, how they're able to care and tend the world and do so from a place of strength and love. Let them show you as an inspiration what's possible. Let them remind you of what it looks like and feels like to be steady, loving, courageous amidst it all. And now they smile at you and you smile back in this gracious way, because the fact that you can visualize and sense and see them, what makes them smile is that they know they are in you. You already carry this wisdom and this strength, this love and courage. The fact that you can visualize and sense and feel this amazing, steady being is because these qualities live within you. They gaze at you and send you the strength and steadiness to help you in this time. Take it in from them, receive it. Let it fill your body and heart and mind. And as you take in this steadiness and love, they now reach under their robes or into their pocket and pull out a special gift for you, a clear symbol of just what you need to stay steady and loving and strong. And they place it in your hands. Let yourself open this gift. If it's not clear, hold it up to the sunlight and see this clear symbol of just what you need to keep your heart steady and your mind clear. And now, with a gesture of gratitude, a bow, you can thank them. And they will respond, "We are here with you." You can feel that they are inside you, to be called upon at any time, to steady your heart, to be as they are, love in the midst of it all. And now, when you're ready, let your eyes open for a moment and take this in. Drink in this possibility. Let yourself feel that you too carry this wisdom and courage. Here is a second practice that you can use to help get out of your busy thoughts and head and the feeling of being unmoored. back to a sense of grounding and steadiness. So again, if you haven't, let your eyes close and take another deep breath or two to release tension. And in this practice, let yourself remember a strong and steady and wonderful tree that you have seen sometime in your life. It could be a tree you've seen in the mountains or in your travels. It could be one that's local, or it could be a sequoia or redwood that you visited at one time. Let an image and a memory of a great tree appear. And as you remember and sense and picture and imagine this tree, sense yourself under it, nearby, gazing at the strong trunk, gazing up at the canopy of leaves. And now let this tree become a teacher for you. As you stand in front of the tree, sense its roots going deep into the earth, steadying it through winds and storms, through rainbows and clouds, through beautiful days and droughts, how the tree's deep roots in the earth keep it steady. And learn from the tree now, and feel in the same way as the tree teaches you your own deep roots of connections to life, going into the earth. You are rooted in this earth. You belong to this earth. This is your home. And as you land more and more deeply in your body, let yourself feel as if you too are a sister or brother, great tree, with roots in the earth, a strong trunk, and branches open to the sky. In this deep rootedness, let fears and tensions drain back into the earth. You stand strong and flexible in the great winds of vast time, amidst praise and blame and birth and death, beginnings and endings. You're the tree of life in the midst of it all. Sense your rootedness. Sense the vast space and time of seasons coming and going. And feel the quiet, steady, courageous, caring presence. You know how to do this. You know how to stay grounded and rooted deeply, flexible, and connected with the force of life coming out of Earth itself. And carrying this sense of steadiness, allow your eyes to open again. And know that you can come back to these practices, whichever practices touch and strengthen your heart. you can do again and again as you need them. These are practices that water the seeds of strength and love, of courage and compassion again and again in your own heart. Make a schedule for yourself at home as you stay that allows you to incorporate practice regularly in the course of the day. Make an altar that shows the figures that inspire you, and let this inspiration feed you. For a practice of compassion in the time of coronavirus and many other practices, you can visit my website, jackkornfield.com, Tara's website, tarabrach.com. You'll also find, along with many other practices, information about other trainings, including our wonderful online teacher training. And most of all, do not lose heart. We will go through this together. We're connected in our common humanity and our care. And as John O'Donohue, mystic and poet and inspirer of so many hearts, reminds us with this blessing, may the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love and courage around you, an invisible cloak to hold your life. Thank you. Stay steady, stay loving, stay caring, stay well.
Welcome back, my friends. I'm really glad to be with you and to have this time to reflect together on how we can respond to this world crisis we're in, to the fears and the losses with compassion, with a wise heart. And one of the pandemic cartoons circulating right now is a picture of Sisyphus working at home on a laptop. And there's this huge boulder by his side, and his expression is kind of an identity crisis, kind of confusion. And it's just not life as usual for anyone. This pandemic has toppled all routines, all plans, large and small. It's interesting to recall your worries and concerns, whatever you were focused on a few weeks ago, or maybe longer, depending on where you live. Everything's changed. And I imagine, like me, many are listening and have fears that are much more survival-based, physical survival, financial survival, maybe for yourself or others who are dear, or maybe for the so many in our world who are living on the edge right now. It feels very close in to me personally. My pregnant daughter-in-law is a nurse working at the largest hospital in the San Francisco area, and she's very committed to staying on. So she's extremely high risk. And my son's father, dear friend, who lives with them, is also quite ill, and he's got a severe heart condition. He wouldn't survive the virus, we don't think. So they're trying to sequester him. And I share this because so many are in kind of impossible situations with no good answers. So my fears are for so many. The pandemics are toughest on those who are most vulnerable, those with the least money, the least access to resources, are the ones that most contract the virus, die from the virus, and if they don't die, are financially devastated. So as my friend Valerie Carr puts it, this is a time to see no stranger. So with a lot of people, I'm in process, I feel, even as I speak, the vulnerability of it, anticipating real loss, that rawness and tenderness. And I'm also feeling an enormous sense of possibility, of potential, that what's unfolding as suffering can do can wake up more love and more compassion in us and our world. And many are familiar with the bodhisattva aspiration. A bodhisattva is an awakened being. May whatever circumstances arise serve the awakening of this heart, of all hearts. May whatever circumstances, death, dying, loss. This prayer feels very deep right now and very strong and important. I know I'm not alone. That sensing the potential in this pandemic to call forth love, to awaken hearts. And our conscious prayer, our conscious aspiration is so powerful. It's like the deeper our contact with real vulnerability, the roots deep down into the realness of the vulnerability, the more powerfully our aspiration, our prayer reaches out like those branches of a great tree towards light, towards love. If you're intentional, suffering can turn you towards your most precious spiritual resources, that inner refuge of courage, compassion, wisdom, calm. I'd like to pause here and invite you to reflect for a moment. You might take a few breaths. And scanning in a way how things are for you right now. To sense the vulnerability you've most contacted inside yourself. What feels most challenging? What's been distressing? And for these moments, give yourself permission to open to that, to let yourself feel that. And as you do, you might sense into yourself and ask, what is my heart's deepest aspiration? What is the prayer of my heart? Sensing, what do you hope might be called forth in you? How do you want to be? Who do you want to be in the midst of this? So we'll continue to look together, the practices, the inner practices, the practices with each other that allow us to align with our aspiration, whether it's for presence or compassion or calm. Many of you know, as Jack mentioned, that we teach a meditation teacher training. It's mostly online, and there are participants from 50 countries and a number from China. And several reported that the Chinese government recently officially recommended that to reduce stress and support community during these times, everybody in China should practice mindfulness meditation, which is good news. I and some colleagues are currently offering a webinar on mindfulness to the House of Representatives and staff. And so now I'm waiting for their official word that we physically distance and we wash hands and we quiet our minds and we arrive in presence. May that be our instructions. So for all of us, when we're feeling separate and anxious and reactive, we need a pathway from fight, flight, freeze to clarity and calm. And to truly free ourselves from the grip of fear, that pathway needs to involve bringing mindfulness and a deep, compassionate presence to the fear. And especially during these times, it's so important to have a way back because the anxiety is so contagious. So I remind us, many of you are familiar of how we can use rain, recognize, allow, investigate, nurture, to carry us back to that inner refuge of calm, to wake up through the fear. And I often think of the psychologist Luis Cozzolino, who says, it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the nurtured. We need a way to be mindful and connect with what's here and to hold it with kindness. I'll share with you a most recent rain story on my own experience. A few days ago, I was reading about the Arizona prisons and giving out free hand soap because they were exposed for not having such a basic thing for prisoners, where the horror of the virus spreading is very, very real, and there's no such thing as being able to take a refuge in a place that's quiet and separate from others. So I was by the river meditating, where I meditate often, and feeling those most vulnerable, those that are dear ones that are facing so much. And so I started with rain and recognizing, okay, fear, just naming it. And it really helps to whisper the name when it comes up. Just to name it, it calms the limbic system some. And then allow, and just giving space. And it's not like wanting it to be there. It's just for now agreeing to give some space to what's here. And investigating in rain, what's important is to let it be somatic, to really come right into our bodies with that willingness. So that's what I did, this willingness to feel the vulnerability. And I placed my hand on my heart because that's where I felt it. And that both helps me to keep my attention where the feelings are, the felt sense, but also it begins to nurture. And we need nurture all the way through. Felt right into the epicenter of it, breathing and a kind of a surrendering resistance as I did. And just ask that vulnerability, that fear, what's needed? What do you need? And the response was pure loving, to belong to love. I need to trust and feel the belonging to love. And so in those moments, I called on the whole universe's love. It was this intimate field of love washing into the vulnerability. And the words that were whispered were beloved, beloved. Just those words, that feeling of belonging to love. I talk about after the rain. Those are the moments after the nurturing and the loving presence with what's here. And that's a sense of becoming that loving awareness. Just becoming the ocean that's holding the waves. And in those moments, this is what I really wanted to name to you, the fear, that clutch and clenching of vulnerability, became the world's fear. It was impersonal. It was like this huge loving awareness was holding these tender streams moving through. And what I keep rediscovering with rain, with bringing presence to what's here, the secret is loving the fear, loving ourselves into healing. And we can't will that. And initially it doesn't feel like love when we're first present with it. But if we keep having that willingness to be present, it starts opening up. So I want to invite you to pause again here, because even a light rain can help to open us out of the clutch of fear and sense that open awareness and tenderness that can be present with all the streams. So again, you might take a few long, deep breaths. Scanning again for where any sense of vulnerability, any sense of fear that wants your attention, that's calling your attention, lives in your body, lives in your heart. And with whatever arises, whatever's predominant, just to recognize it, just to honor, okay, this is what's here. Perhaps mentally whispering a word that goes with the feelings you're feeling right now. And let your intention be to allow. And then gently place your hand wherever you feel vulnerability. It might be the throat or the chest or the belly. So you're both investigating and feeling into the experience, and you're also beginning to accompany it with a witnessing and loving presence. Take a few full breaths, breathing in to where you feel the vulnerability, guiding your attention with your hand. And from the wisest, most awake place in you, your awakened heart, sense what's most needed in this moment and offer some gesture of care, of nurturing to your vulnerable heart. It might be words, an image, energetic tenderness. And then letting go of any doing, just rest in the presence that's here, noticing the quality of the present. And you might sense any shift from the vulnerable self when you began a light rain to more spaciousness, more tenderness, more presence. If you'd like to open your eyes, please do. The more that we cultivate this capacity to hold the vulnerability within us, the more we can connect with each other with a loving presence, an awake presence. Again, that line, this is a time to see no stranger. How much can our hearts include others? There's that beautiful saying that everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Can we see that? We know we have a strong conditioning to feel we're separate. And in pandemics, this actually can be amplified by the fears that others will get us sick. So to reduce the sense of separation, to increase love, I'd like to conclude these talks that Jack and I are doing with 3 domains of deepening attention. Each one of them to reduce separation and increase love. And the first one is to intentionally reach out to connect with others by phone, online sitting, sharing with others online. For some, you may be involved with spiritual friends groups or other sanghas. Some of you might be familiar with Rain Partners. You can get all the resources for that on my website. A way of being real with each other actually deepens our capacity to hold what's going on in our world. You can do Zoom yoga classes, Zoom dinner parties. Enjoy and connect. So that's the first one. The second that reduces fear and increases love is to engage in ways that help. When we're traumatized, we feel a sense of powerlessness. We freeze. Part of healing trauma and healing all fears is to connect in a way that engages. And each one of us brings a very true medicine to the world. We can reach out to someone who might be lonely. We can contribute our time, money, initiatives to help each other. Volunteer, deliver food, medicine. In Ireland, through tweeting, what became viral was this way of matching those who are elderly, who needed medicine, with those who could volunteer and help. So that's the second, is to first reach out, connect. The second, engage and help. And the third is to celebrate the goodness that's here. Walk outside, enjoy the beauty of spring, the dearness of those who we might be working with at home or living with, and the care of so many who really want to serve the good. So we turn towards the light together And we celebrate. There's now Zoom dancing parties, people sharing poetry, songs. In the New York Times last week, there was an article, and it started with this about Italy. It started with the national anthem. Then came the piano, chords, trumpet blasts, violin serenades, and even the clanging of pots and pans, all of it spilling from people's homes, out of windows, and from balconies, and rippling across rooftops. Finally, on Saturday afternoon, a nationwide round of applause broke out for the doctors on the medical front, fighting the spread of Europe's worst coronavirus outbreak. In China, patriotic truck drivers risked infection to bring desperately needed food to the people of Wuhan. In Iran, there were videos that showed doctors in full scrubs and masks dancing to keep spirits up. And then this is a poem many of you have heard because it went viral, and it's so beautiful to reflect on this together, from Richard Hendrick. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there's isolation. Yes, there's panic buying. Yes, there's sickness. Yes, there's even death. But they say that in Wuhan, after so many years of noise, you can hear the birds again. They say that after just a few weeks of quiet, the sky is no longer thick with fumes, but blue and gray and clear. They say that in the streets of Assisi, people are singing to each other across the empty squares, keeping their windows open so that those who are alone may hear the sounds of family around them. They say that in a hotel in the west of Ireland is offering free meals and delivery to the housebound. Today, a young woman I know is busy spreading flyers with her number through the neighborhood so that the elders may have someone to call on. Today, churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples are preparing to welcome and shelter the homeless, the sick, the weary. All over the world, people are slowing down and reflecting. All over the world, people are looking at their neighbors in a new way. All over the world, people are waking up to a new reality, to how big we really are, to how little control we really have, to what really matters, to love. As Jack mentioned, in so many different ways, we've been training for this, to hold this living, dying world in our hearts and to respond with compassion, to take our shelter in love. So we'll close in that spirit. Again, I'd invite you to close your eyes. Sense others around the globe reflecting together that we all are caring about waking up our hearts. And you might sense in these moments, again, your aspiration. What is being called forth in you? What is your prayer? Sensing any vulnerability in your own being that's asking for attention. And just gently offering your attention, whispering out loud any words of comfort that resonate. Bringing to mind someone who can use your healing attention. A dear one who might be caught in their own fear. Again, whispering your words of care, of well-wishing for this person. Bring to mind someone who's different, perhaps by race or class, country, who you might forget is not a stranger, is just like you, wants to love and be loved. Be kind. Everyone you meet has a hard battle. Sensing that for this person and offering your prayer. And to all now, your own vulnerable heart, dear one, someone who's different, to feel the whole world's pain is part of your heart, can be held in this open-hearted space of compassion. Close with the words of Lynn Unger. She says, do not reach out your hands, reach out your heart, reach out your words, reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we shall all live. Thank you, my friends, for your precious attention. Wishing you all blessings as together we move through this with awakening hearts. Blessings.